Back at it again with another video here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the highly anticipated and controversial documentary known as What is a Woman?
No, it's not indicative of an unfair advantage. And I think part of the proof of this is that more transgender girls are coming out in high school and still playing sports. And they're not winning. You know, the Connecticut case is the exception. It got a lot of attention because those two trans girls performed well. But there are many more trans girls competing in sports, and they don't excel. Because at the end of the day, whether or not you win a game is not is about how hard you work in your practice, and most of us aren't going to win. And that goes for transgender athletes, too.
Let's go, girls.
The norm is that transgender youth don't win that much in sports games.
Alana McLaughlin was very appreciative for Provost to take this fight. I don't know how appreciative is now, but she got a couple punches in.
It is very much the exception when a transgender young person does win.
And the tap!
And it's because there's not really an advantage to being trans. Only a few people are going to lead the pack.
There are some slight differences, but does it translate to a competitive advantage? I think you'd be very hard-pressed to prove that.
If there was a big advantage to being transgender in sports, then we would see transgender women totally dominate.
And over the last half of the pool, nobody will touch Leah Thomas.
Is he not paying attention?
Man, I feel like a woman.
Transgender swimmer Leah Thomas breaking barriers and records. But in a new article, Sports Illustrated calls the college senior the most controversial athlete in America.
Leah obviously helps us do better, right? Leah's swimming really fast. Leah's performance helps the University of Pennsylvania swim team. The feeling of winning doesn't feel as good anymore because it feels tainted. There was a lot of things you couldn't talk about that were very concerning, like a locker room situation. If you even brought up concerns about it, you were transphobic. If you even bring up the fact that Leah swimming might not be fair, you were immediately shut down as being called a hateful person or transphobic.
But there's never any conversation. The coaches don't sit everyone down and acknowledge what everyone's really upset about.
So Penn actually brought in people high up in the athletic department to talk to us. They brought in someone from like the LGBTQ center. They brought in someone from the psychological services.
So you're upset about what's happening, and so you need psychological help.
Yeah, and they told us in this meeting, they said, look, we understand there's an array of emotions, but Leah's swimming is a non-negotiable. However, we can help you make that okay. That's what we're here for.
So what I'm hearing is they're essentially telling these girls, okay, this is happening whether you like it or not, and you have no say on whether it's not going to happen. It's happening, and you just have to accept it. And if you don't accept it, then, as she said, you're seen as hateful, you're seen as transphobic. So they're just forcing these athletes upon these girls against their will, against their everything. And we're just going to allow this to happen? Parents, where are you on this, man? Not only that, school boards, the universities, whoever's allowing this to happen, like, where's the discussions on this? From my understanding, legitimate transgender people make up less than 1% of the entire U.S. population. And yet we're forcing it on these girls?
So you're anonymous for this interview. Why did you decide that you can't have your face out there saying these things?
They've made it pretty clear that if you speak up about it and you say anything negative, that like your life will be over in some way. Like you'll be blasted all over the internet as a transphobe if you come out, and then you'll never be able to get a job. Like anyone who wants to hire you will look you up and see you're transphobic and your life will be over.
Ella dice que qué tú piensas acerca de que los hombres que son transexuales usen baños de mujeres. ¿Tú crees que está bien?
No.
Pero dilo.
No, porque tienen que ver. Controversy at a health club in Koreatown over the issue of gender.
That's right. Video of spa goers complaining was posted on social media.
I just want to be clear with you. It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, we spa, condone that. Is that what you're saying? Like I asked. It's so he can stay there. He could stay there. What sexual orientation? I see a dick.
Police identified the person involved as 52-year-old Darren Morager of Riverside County. Morager, who has been a registered sex offender since 2006, now faces 5 felony counts of indecent exposure.
Hello, I'm Congressman Mark Takano. Trans Month of Visibility is a time to recognize...
Whoa. 52-year-old sex offender walks into a spa, goes into the girls section, says he identifies as a woman, and is just allowed to go. Yeah, and there's people that say that people won't take advantage of this. No, nobody will take advantage of it. Everyone's sweet. Everyone has no dark side. They would never, never, never take advantage of a self-identifying woman that they can't define. Oh, brain AIDS is a pandemic into itself. Whoa.
Strength, diversity, and resiliency of the transgender community. Together, we can make our country and our world a more accepting place by speaking out against transphobia at the source and supporting the trans community by getting the Equality Act signed into law.
Congressman, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us. You are the first...
Holy crap, this guy's a congressman in California. Oh, man. Somehow, I'm not too surprised. This guy better not be in Orange County. Holy shit, man. That's where I live. In terms of respect for someone, when you first meet them, you have a general respect for somebody, because they're a person, like anyone else. Then, can it drop to 0 when you learn something about them? I'm curious.
What is the Equality Act? If you were to just summarize it very briefly, I know it does a lot.
The most simplest way to talk about the Equality Act is that it simply amends the 1964 Civil Rights Act to include sexual orientation and gender identity. So public accommodations is one area. Hotels and motels and...
Bathrooms and sports teams, is that...
I say bathrooms, sports teams, athletic events.
There are some women who say, and I've talked to a few who say this, they say, hey, I'd like some privacy in the bathroom. I'd prefer not to encounter naked penises, frankly. How do we account for that? How do you respond to that?
Well, what I would say is that most transgender people, a person who wants to use a woman's bathroom, who identifies as transgender, really does think of themselves as a female. So how we go about trying to respect their basic right to live, I think will be an important part of this law. And
this law is going to solidify their basic right to live? How did he get there from girls don't want to see a guy's dick in the bathroom to this law is going to go ahead and solidify a transgender's basic right to live? Is he thinking that a transgender's life is in danger if they can't use the girl's bathroom?
Bathrooms are, where you want to take this conversation instead of the basic right to just life. So, you know what? I think this interview is over. I think this interview is over.
I just had one last question.
The interview's over.
We want to know what is a woman?
Please turn off the cameras.
Excuse me. So we're going to end the interview. If you guys could please pack up and return the office exactly.
I just wanted to know.
That's your representative, California. I'm not sure what district he's a part of, but I'm going to look it up, and I feel sorry for that district, even if it's my own.
They're fair. I just wanted to know, what is a woman?
And you're not going to find out.
Okay. I think we could pretty much just sum it up right there, because I don't think anybody on that side of the controversy is ever going to answer it up front. I mean, we've already seen dozens or hundreds of examples of this. I mean, a Supreme Court justice that was in her confirmation hearing couldn't even answer it. Or they don't want to answer it. I think that's the real thing. They do not want to answer this question. Because if they say anything concrete or anything that has to do anything with, reality in biology, then they're going to be crucified by their own side. Lefties always eat their own. We know this. Oh, San Francisco. Oh, God.
My trip to California isn't providing many answers, but at least I'm making new friends.
Holy
You worry about kids
shit.
walking around out here?
No, because I raised 2 daughters. They're 2 of the most well-adjusted adults. They grew up around naked people, and there's been studies that have shown that children raised around non-sexual nudity actually have fewer hang-ups when they're adults.
People do have hang-ups. There's a lot of things hanging right now during this conversation.
Well, why are you asking a gay man as to what it means to be a woman? You should be asking women what it means to be a woman, especially trans women, what it means to be a woman.
I'm asking all kinds of people. Can't anyone have an opinion about it?
Only people who are women. Gay men don't know nothing about what it means to be a woman.
Have you told gay men here in San Francisco that they're not allowed to talk about this?
No. But it's not like I come around and say what a gay man is allowed to be.
So you're saying if you're not a woman, then you shouldn't have an opinion?
Where does a guy get a right to say what a woman is? Women only know what women are.
Are you a cat?
No.
Can you tell me what a cat is?
This is actually a genuine mistake. I am sorry I even came up there.
Oh, that flawed reasoning right there. Yeah, it's getting into tribalism now. The idea that, okay, only if you're associated with that group can you have a say about it. In all aspects of, social interactions, policy, whatever. A man can't say anything about a woman because he's not a woman. And a woman can't say anything about a man because they're not a man. Okay, so by following that logic, you would just break it down even further. Okay, a woman that we don't know what a woman is, apparently. Different ethnicities. So, a black woman. Can a black woman, under that logic, a black woman can't say anything about what an Asian woman. And then all the races in between. Same thing on the man side. Okay, what about cats? So people can't say anything about cats, dogs, animal kingdom, nothing. And then you break it down even further by occupation, or social groups, things of that sort. Yeah, I think that would lead to pretty much a shit show. Yeah. Yeah, tribalism, look it up. It's not a pretty thing. Not a pretty thing at all. It essentially leads to conflict and war.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Well, you're at the Women's March. You must have some idea.
You are not here for women. We ask you to leave.
What is that? How am I harassing? I'm asking a question.
Our bodies are choice.
Whose body? What is a woman? Can anyone here at the Women's March tell me what a woman is? How about you tell me what a woman is and I'll put a mask on? Sir, tell me what a woman is and I'll put a mask on. Please, if one person could tell me what a woman...
It's so interesting that he's just asking questions. Really basic one, too. What is a woman? And they're already getting, really angry about him. So much so that they're shouting him down. He already got assaulted once. It's funny, if you don't subscribe to their ideology, they lose their shit. It's almost like they're not mentally capable to handle any type of adversity or stress. I think they should seek treatment. Yeah, for that. I don't think we should be looking to them to decide how society should function, is what I'm trying to get at. Because obviously they're not all there. They can't handle any type of adversity in regards to ideology. Because either they'll berate you, they'll shout you out, or they'll assault you. Which is what we just saw. Anybody that wants to have a general, an actual conversation about this and debate this. I'm open to it.
Do you guys know what a woman is by any chance?
Nairobi, Africa.
What does a man do? What are his roles within the tribe?
At the role of a man, you need to work for your woman. Secondly, to have children. If you have children and you don't have something to feed them, you are not still a man. A woman has its own duty, and a man has its own duty, and a lady cannot do the duty of a man, and a man cannot do a duty of a woman.
I think Jordan Peterson touched on this in regards to him saying responsibility gives life some meaning, and male responsibility is to go ahead and protect and provide for what he believes is what his, and a female's responsibility is somewhat, to take care of herself in that regard. But then when she does become pregnant, now she has a new responsibility that she takes on, which is to go ahead and care for the child. And I would love to go and ask some of these quote-unquote transgender people, what do you believe your responsibility is? What is your duty? What do you believe your duty is? To anyone, your partner, community at large, your family.
If you want to become a lady but you're a man, you have something wrong in your mind. Something wrong in your family, something wrong in you.
What about if someone was non-binary?
Come again?
Non-binary? Like not.
Perfect reaction to that question.
He's saying we have never seen things like those. For a man, he has a penis. For a woman, he has a vagina. So we know this is a lady, this is a man.
What if it's a woman with a penis?
Both.
People are laughing. Is that a dumb question?
They're just laughing because they have never heard something like that. This is their first time to hear.
Never heard it before.
A woman have a penis and she is a woman.
Based on what I'm saying, would you ever want to move to America?
They say no, never.
What is a woman if you had to give it a definition?
She's saying a woman delivered, a man cannot.
Very simple, very succinct. It's like the new man have a penis, woman have a vagina. That's the new saying right there. A woman can deliver, but a man cannot. Very straightforward, very simple. Love it.
Because we believe that's a God plan.
God's plan? It's clear that gender ideology is a uniquely Western phenomenon. So where did all this come from? Who came up with it? And why?
Matt, I want to show this to you.
It's a great
You're
question.
Parent, right? Okay? It's perfectly normal for 10 years and up. Here's just one page I want you to see here.
For 10 and up, huh?
It's unspeakable what these people have done to our children.
So, anybody that didn't catch that, right there's the book. It's perfectly normal. Changing Bodies, Growing Up, Sex, and Sexual Health. That's a cartoon illustration of sex in a children's book. That's disgusting. They're allowing this book to go through circulation.
When did that start? When was it decided that we need to start teaching kids about this stuff at such a young age?
So I'll answer that with one word: Kinsey. Kinsey was a social reformer. He wanted to rid society of Judeo-Christian values when it came to sexuality. And
Kinsey wanted to rid society of Judeo-Christian values. For those not in the know, our founding fathers, the ones that established the United States from the British, they crafted the Constitution and the Bill of Rights from neo-Christian values, and that's what they went ahead and moved forward with to go ahead and create what we have now.
He worked very hard to do that, and I would say he succeeded.
Kinsey would be very happy with our culture today. His idea was that children are sexual from birth, that we're all inherently sexual creatures from cradle to grave. He believed that true happiness is found in a life of perverse sexual experimentation, no matter the age.
What came out is that his research was fraudulent.
Kinsey based his fraudulent conclusions on data he collected from convicted sex offenders and child molesters. His research was conducted in prisons, not everyday America. He also performed horrific sexual experiments on children, some under the age of 1. His most influential book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, contains an infamous chart called Table 34, which documents the orgasms of very young kids, including babies as young as 5 months old. But instead of suffering the consequences for his heinous actions, he was and still is celebrated by academia and Hollywood. His ideas form the foundation for sexual education in public schools today.
Okay. Breathe.
You can choose your own gender.
Okay, well, now we have another very important character, and his name was John Money.
John Money was a psychologist and professor at Johns Hopkins University. Gender ideology was his brainchild. In fact, he coined the terms gender identity and gender roles. And according to Money, babies are gender neutral at birth, and ultimately environment determines whether a person is a man or a woman.
Money was telling the world about his theory that a boy could be raised as a girl and do just fine, and vice versa.
And so Money tried out his theory on 2 young twin boys, the Reimer twins.
When the twins were 8 months old and they went to be circumcised, the first twin, whose name was Bruce, something went wrong with the machinery and his penis was burnt off. They stopped and didn't do a second circumcision on the other twin, as you might imagine. And the parents, of course, didn't know what to do. How are they going to raise this child?
John Money convinced Bruce's parents to transition him into a girl. Money also conducted sexually abusive experiments on the twins throughout their childhood, including forcing them to simulate sex acts on each other.
He reported up to the age of 10 that this was a complete success. Well, wasn't true.
The results were a disaster. Bruce could never fully accept his female identity. Eventually, his parents told him the truth, and he chose to transition back to a boy, taking the name David. As an adult, David spoke out about the abuse and the damage done to him by John Money.
The girls would do their things with their Barbies and things like that, and that wouldn't interest me.
This was on Oprah in 2000, so this was a big deal. Yeah, this is one of the many examples that proves that human beings do not learn from history.
Building forts and, getting to the odd fist fight and climbing trees, that's the kind of stuff that I like, but it was unacceptable, so I'd never...
As a girl?
As a girl, I had no place to fit in.
The trauma that he and his brother and his entire family went through left deep scars. His brother died of an overdose when he was 38, and then David committed suicide.
There was never a retraction or an apology from John Money. Instead, his ideas were adopted by mainstream psychology, and they form the basis of gender ideology today. Why don't more people know about John Money and Alfred Kinsey?
Evidently, there are forces that don't want this information out.
I'm guessing that all those 2 individuals are hidden under, the bedrock where Epstein's client list is, who shot JFK, Hunter Biden's, indictments, Bill Clinton's, tapes of Epstein Island. Yeah, I'm assuming that's where it is.
In the wrong body, I started to think, well, maybe I am. I'm a biological woman that medically transitioned to appear like a male through synthetic hormones and surgery. I will never be a man. Is it transphobic for me to tell the truth? Why is it that a couple hundred years from now, if you dug up my body, they're gonna go, yep, that was a woman. Had babies. I've had 7 surgeries. I've had 1 stress heart attack. I've had a helicopter life ride with a pulmonary embolism. I've had 17 rounds of antibiotics. I had 6 inches of hair on the inside of my urethra for 17 months. Nobody would help me, including the doctor that did this to me because I lost my insurance. I get infections every 3 to 4 months. I'm probably not gonna live very long.
Was there any real discussion of the risks and the side effects and?
No, there's not. And I know that people want to think that there is, but there's not. The truth is that medical transition is experimental. We have studies that said that medical transition helps mental health with kids. They've all been retracted, modified, changed. But the only long-term study tells us 7 to 10 years is when transgender people are the most suicidal.
After?
After surgery. But that's transphobic to say. For the first time in history, a marginalized group has a huge dollar sign on the top of their head. We have 5 children's hospitals in the United States promoting that.
And what?
That's a phalloplasty. That's a bottom surgery. We have 5 children's hospitals in the United States telling girls that they can be boys at $70,000 a pop in a surgery that has a 67% complication rate. That will kill me from infection that I can't sue on. We're butchering a generation of children because nobody's willing to talk about anything. This is wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, they don't talk about this a lot. Ever. Okay, I'm starting to get pissed off now. Center yourself. Center yourself.
Kids are
No.
capable of consenting to this?
No, they're not. Being a parent is loving the hell out of your kids and helping them see around corners.
What's the youngest patient that you've operated on?
The youngest patient I've done vaginoplasty on is age 16.
Do you worry that minors just don't understand enough about themselves? They're not neurologically developed enough yet to make permanent life-altering decisions?
Absolutely not.
Medical professionals are telling confused adolescents that they can go ahead and decide what gender they are and they can have surgery done in order to go ahead and change it. When those adolescents can't drink a beer, they can't own a gun. Up until 21, if Joe Biden has, and his administration has any way with it. They can't vote in elections. But they're competent enough and stable enough to go ahead and decide, I want to have a surgery that will alter my life forever.
A young person's self-perception, one day they may be clear, the next day they may be totally confused and not sure, and you're affirming it with hormones that have never been used in this way in the field of medicine.
You're talking about puberty blockers?
Blockers and then opposite sex hormones.
At what age does the medical transition begin with medication?
So medical affirmation begins when the patient says they're ready for it. So that could be a kiddo who is just starting puberty.
I don't know if Matt Walsh was thinking the same thing I was. That an unbelievable urge to vomit when she said that.
And panicking because they're getting breast buds or their penis is getting bigger and busier and they're worried about all kinds of masculine changes. And that way, puberty blockers, which are completely reversible and don't have permanent effects, are wonderful because we can put that pause on puberty. Just like if you were listening to music, you put the pause on and we stop the blockers and puberty would go right back to where it was. The next note in the song just delayed that period of time.
You can just pause puberty.
No, you can't.
And then pick it up?
No, you can't.
In the future?
No, you can't. How many studies do they have, long-term studies, on hormone blockers with children? None.
Wow. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. And I'm talking about the US, by the way.
14-year-old daughter was put on blockers. They discovered after 2 years, this 14-year-old girl has osteoporosis. That's something that like old women get.
How can doctors assure parents that a certain medicine is totally safe if, based on what you're saying, they can't possibly know that?
How can they be removing the healthy breasts of 15-year-old girls? How can they be sterilizing kids? How can this whole thing be happening, Matt?
Every child that they convince is transgender and in need of medical transition, it generates $1.3 million to pharma. And we're believing a pharmaceutical company, Lupron, hormone blockers, reversible, so they say. Well, the truth is that in 2003, Lupron was sued and deemed a criminal enterprise by the US government. They paid the most fine of any pharmaceutical company at that time, $874 million, wrote a check.
Is Lupron chemical castration?
Yes. We're giving it to pedophiles, aren't we? We're giving it to people that are dying, and we're giving it to kids, telling them that they were born in the wrong body.
So we give this drug to pedophiles to chemically castrate them, and now they're giving that to kids, saying that it's safe and effective. Where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, having to do with the recent pandemic with some other quote-unquote vaccines that don't fit the definition of what a vaccine actually is. But then again, we're even having trouble to identifying something as simple as a woman. A company that up until that point paid the highest civil penalty of 800 and something million. I wonder who the number one is right now. What pharmaceutical company is number one in paying the highest civil penalty? I remember reading about that. Yeah, that's Pfizer. Paid over $2 billion in a civil case against them, to where they were tried and convicted for paying off health officials to not report adverse side effects regarding their products. You can look this up if you want.